All right, fans, we are here live in studio, Denton, Texas, in the heart of Denton County. You are tuned in to the Denko Gridiron Show. Make sure you share this out. We got a special live Friday afternoon playoff edition, Texas high school football. Doesn't get any better than this. You won't want to miss it. I'm John Piper. So glad to be back with you live. I'll be executive producing today's show. The not ready for primetime players, Lee Livingston and Koency Hord, both interns, University of North Texas students, and doing a great job, guys. How y'all doing this Friday afternoon?
Doing pretty well. How about you?
Doing good.
Yeah, beautiful day out. If anybody's headed to some of the games tonight, the Marcus, Argyle, the Geyer Flower Mound game, it's a beautiful 72 degrees out there right now. You know, kickoff, it's going to drop probably down into the low 60s, maybe before the games are over, down into the 40s, I believe, maybe upper 40s. But I know, Lee, you and I are heading out to C.H. Collins. Koency, you've got the night off. But, guys, man, how excited are y'all for some Texas high school playoffs?
I'm really excited. You know, we get to go out and see the Geyer versus Flower Mound game tonight. You know, we got to talk to those Coach Basil. I got to see Coach Webb yesterday. I didn't get to talk to him much, but I got to talk to the linebacking core, the all seniors. It was fun to get to see those guys, get to see a little bit of practice. I'm excited for that matchup. You know, it's two local teams that aren't that far apart from each other. They obviously aren't in the same district, but I think it's going to be a really fun atmosphere tonight. So looking forward to it.
Koency, what are your thoughts?
Yes, sir. Well, obviously, I'm going to be a little bummed. I'm going to be missing out tonight with the University of North Texas homecoming activities. But I got to see these teams play each other, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago in the playoffs. And that was a really awesome game. Again, like you said, two local teams matching up. I'm excited to see what Geyer's going to be able to do offensively. I know we're going to be talking here in a little bit about how Flower Mound's offense is going to be maybe handicapped a little bit with the loss of their starting running back, but I think overall it's going to be pretty good game.
Well, guys, we're also going to be joined here shortly live from C.H. Collins Athletic Complex. Stephen Peters, he's the beat writer for the Geyer Wildcats, working for the Denton Record Chronicle. So we'll be joining him live through technology, live from the stadium. Should be a great show.
Sir.
You want to get us going, or you?
I'm going to say you got it.
All righty. So news and updates kind of from around the area. I think that's always important to kind of remember that we're not just, you know, we are the Denko Gridiron Show, and we focus on our local kind of Denton County teams, but we want to remember state playoffs involve a lot of teams. So first thing to get us started here, Peyton Porter, running back for the Flower Mound Jaguars, is going to be out tonight. We'll dive a little bit more into that here later in the show, but I just wanted to get that out there just in case anyone can't stay in tuned. That's headed out to the game, can't stay tuned for the entire show. He's going to be out tonight, going to play a pivotal role. Might see a little bit different game plan for the Jaguar offense since he's going to be out. A lot of big games to pay attention to tonight that are going to have effects throughout the playoffs and kind of affect some of these higher seeded teams. The first big game I think that we want to pay attention to is going to be Louisville versus McKinney Boyd. Louisville was undefeated for a while until they lost to Marcus, lost out on that district title, but last week played Hebron, ended up winning on a Hail Mary, gave up a late touchdown to Hebron, somehow got that Hail Mary in there, won the game. I think it's the one loss in the season, correct?
Right,
correct.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure I got that right. McKinney Boyd, another stellar team. So these are kind of two heavyweights meeting up here in the first round. I don't know if anyone has any kind of thoughts on it. You and I saw Louisville play. They're a good defense. They can give up some points. You know, that you can beat them. It's just a matter of, can they get that running game going? Because that's where their offense, lies.
Right. Yeah. With Louisville, it's going to be a lot of running game. It's going to be a lot of horizontal play. When we saw Louisville play, we never really saw them take a lot of shots downfield. It was really just trying to get that running game going. And if they can't get that running game going, then they're going to struggle the whole night. I also noticed with Louisville, they're a team where they're going to have to focus on not giving up the big play. If they can just focus on not giving up the big play and kind of just having a bend don't break mentality, they can stay alive in a lot of these games. But I think it's just gonna kind of be in terms of not falling apart towards the end of games like we saw against Marcus.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. It was a tight game first half, and then Marcus just ran away with it there in that second half. All right, on to the next one that we want to mention. I just wanted to bring in this up. Trinity versus Keller. Keller, a decent team. They started the year off pretty hot, especially in non-district play, and then once district hit there towards the end of the year, kind of a string of losses, lost a few games there. Trinity has looked really, really good throughout the season. 2 losses on the year. I'm kind of, interested to see just how this goes, because Keller, was a team that started the year pretty well. If they could put something together tonight and maybe test Trinity, this is their first non-district game since the beginning of the year, which is where they suffered one or two, I think it was just the one loss in non-district play. It might've been both. Sorry if I'm messing that up there, folks, but I just want to see, just because they weren't in the toughest of districts. No offense to anyone in that who has family or friends or likes that district. I want to see them get tested. And that's something I'm looking forward to kind of seeing.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, we haven't really covered either of those teams a lot this year, but I know Trinity was one of the teams that came out and surprised a lot of people earlier in the year. And I know Keller also, like you said, they started off pretty strong as the year went on, kind of fell off a little bit. But I would like to see Trinity go pretty deep in the playoffs this year. If I had to take a pick in this one, I'm going to say Trinity. I'm going to take Trinity.
Definitely with you there. I mean, they're a former powerhouse. It'd be cool if they could make a bounce back and really make a run, because if they do, always fun when Trinity is in the mix. So, right. Alrighty. Hebron versus Allen, definitely another one to pay attention to. Allen, 2 lost to Prosper a couple weeks ago. That was kind of a weird one, tight game. But Hebron here, they lost on, as we mentioned, lost on that Hail Mary. I don't know what we're going to see in this one. Hebron, not a bad team, played well in district, tested a lot of teams like Marcus, tested some teams, tested Louisville recently. As I just said, I don't know what's going to happen here. I would assume Allen's going to come out and play well. They're a team that comes in, plays well in the playoffs every year. I think it's going to be last I checked, it was at Allen. Hebron could test them though. I do think that they're going to come out and play good football. They've done that for a lot of the season, a good chunk of the season. I think they're going to come out and make Allen try to make some plays.
Yeah, of course. I think they're going to make Allen work for it. I think that's, 100% certain. But, I'm going to have to take Allen in this game. I'm not going to lie to you. Hebron was one of those teams that was undefeated for most of the season, like you said. It's also funny that how we were talking about how Louisville doesn't really ever go vertical. They ended up winning on a Hail Mary to Hebron. That's kind of ironic. But, yeah, Hebron, you're not going to have a lot of playoff experience on this Hebron team, at least not a lot of deep playoff experience. With Allen, you can't really say the same thing. You're obviously going to have a lot of veterans, a lot of playoff experience on that team, which can go a long way when you're trying to carry a 1 or 2 loss team through the playoffs.
Yep. All right. And then the last game we want to touch on is Melissa versus Midlothian Heritage. This is definitely the one. If you're a 4A fan, or if you are a fan of a 4A team like Argyle or Melissa, this is definitely the one to pay attention to. Midlothian Heritage coming in at 8-3, and then Melissa, I think they just have the 2 losses on the season. Let me double check real quick. Yep, 2 losses on the season, and they were both early in the year. They were their first 2 losses. The losses were at the first 2 games of the season. Melissa's played really well since then. Midlothian Heritage played really good football in the year, and they beat Kennedale, a 9-1 team. So these are 2 good football teams meeting up in the first round. Pay attention to it.
Guys, Hebron had to claw their way in. They did not win a game until district play. And, Hebron always puts a good product on the field. It just shows you the parity in some of these districts, how tough it is in 6A Texas high school football, to just get an opportunity in this gold ball season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's one of the interesting things here that we're going to see here in these first rounds, like Argyle and Kennedale, both playing 3-loss teams, and Argyle in the same district here as Melissa. Melissa's getting paired up with a 8-win team. So it's possible that district, that Midlothian Heritage coming out as maybe a little weaker. These are always weird. These first rounds are always interesting because of that.
Right. Yeah, I know we saw Melissa was the team that ended up beating Argyle, giving Argyle their only loss this season. So I'm very interested in this Melissa team. I'm kind of interested to see how they're going to be able to do in playoffs. I haven't been able to watch them in a playoff game as I've been covering these games for the last few years, but I'm interested to see how far they can go.
Hey, Kaz, before we get into the Dinko Gridiron teams, talk a little bit about our friends at Marty B's. I know, man, there's so much good stuff going on there. Have you guys been following Marty on his Instagram?
Yes.
Man, he's doing some great stuff. It's a great place. I'm sure it's a perfect night to go there. You can even catch it after the games tonight, or if you're on your way up to C.H. Collins, maybe call into Marty B's, get you an order of maybe a couple of orders of wings, maybe 20 or 40 for a little tailgate action up at C.H. Collins. Or if you're going down to Marcus as well, to catch that Marcus Prosper game, that'll be a good spot to pick up some bites, maybe some sliders, or a post-game cold beverage.
All right, well, should we get into the local teams in the area?
Yeah, I think the first one to start off with here is the Denton-Ryan game. Denton-Ryan last night put on a beatdown. Yep, what was it?
Hey, guys, I think we've got Stephen Peters. He's
awesome.
Really running down the beat for the DRC and Geyer, but he's also up at C.H. Collins last night for that Ryan game. So let's bring him in. He'll be able to add some commentary on that Ryan game. Let's see if we can connect to Stephen Peters right now.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
How you doing, Stephen?
How's it
good?
And welcome. It's always fun to bring in really what we would call you one of the experts, one of the Texas high school football media mafia, Stephen. And
yeah, I'm trying to be like Matt Stepp as best as I can.
Yeah, you're high atop C.H. Collins. It's just an absolute gorgeous night out. You're probably not too many people up there yet. Have both teams arrived yet?
No. Excuse me. As I try to talk with the frog in my throat, Guy who's here, I think Flower Mound is matriculating in a little bit with the coaches and some other staff, but not a lot of action on the field right now.
And thanks for joining us today. I know the guys
absolutely.
here probably have some commentary about the Ryan game, but you were there last night, so they'll probably throw it to you a little bit during this segment.
Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, we saw in the last night, obviously Ryan was able to win that one 49-14 against Dallas White. Ryan was able to force 4 turnovers or 4 fumble recoveries. They had less yards than Dallas White because of the short field that they were getting the whole entire game, but Kalon Davis had a great game, efficient night with 3 touchdowns, and they're going to play the winner of Magnolia West and Tyler. Steven, do you have any thoughts on that one last night?
Yeah, it was an interesting game. If you saw Ryan's offense, it kind of looked like they struggled here and there. They were really adamant about trying to get Kalen Davis going through the air. He had a rough week last week against Frisco Lone Star, and so they're trying to, I think, build up some confidence. So they really went pass heavy early on. But credit to the defense to be active with their hands and reactive when the ball was on the ground, because 4 out of those 7 fumbles were recovered, and 1 was scooped and scored, and then they also had a kickoff return for a touchdown. So it was a solid, well-rounded win. It wasn't the flashiest win, but it's the typical Ryan first-round win.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of funny watching Ryan, even if that offense is a little inconsistent at times, you're always going to be able to see that defense flying around and, making plays. So, yeah, I'm not surprised to see that they were able to get the job done last night.
I just have one question for you here on Kalen Davis. So statistically, it seems like, hey, fine night and whatnot, but just from your perspective, how did he look? Did he look kind of a little bit better, a little more confident maybe, since he was getting those short field opportunities? And do you think he's going to be able to build off that game last night going into the second round?
I think the coaches, I can't speak for exactly how he played last week. I just know he struggled from anecdotal feedback I heard about it. But I think the coaches did a better job this week of putting him into better position to make better throws. Some of them were not great. I will admit that he tried throwing a post over the middle, and it was 5 yards short of the receiver, and it was an ugly throw. But there were other times where he had a lot of quick outs or shovel passes that he completed and got the playmakers into open space. And so I think it was a good confidence boost. It was a average performance, I think, all around at best. I wouldn't call it anything stout or perfect by any stretch.
Right. Now, I'm sure as you may know, they're going to end up playing the winner of Magnolia and West and Tyler. We haven't seen much from either of those teams, but do you have any predictions or thoughts going into that game and what you might be able to see?
Yeah, I imagine they're going to play Magnolia West, and that game would be on Saturday most likely next week in Waco. Magnolia West is going to be a tough team to beat for Ryan, and they're going to have to rest on their defense, which is going to carry them for the playoffs if they have a long run again. Magnolia West is coming out of a district where they were paired up against College Station, and I think they beat them, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't looked at their schedule, but I'm pretty sure they beat College Station, and College Station was considered one of the best, if not the best, 5A team heading into the season, and they were good last year too. So they just improved on that. So it'll be a tough matchup if they play Magnolia West, which is I think who they're going to play. They played Tyler. That would be an upset in the first round for sure, and we saw a lot of it last night in some close calls. And I think Ryan would have a better game of it against Tyler, but you never know. And we don't know where that one would be and what time and where, but all signs would point to Magnolia West in Waco next week.
Yeah, so I'll just add in real quick so that Magnolia West, their only loss on the season was to College Station. It was last week. It was a 41-20 loss. They played really well throughout the season. A couple tight games, but for the most part, they smacked everyone around. I think you're definitely right there. It's probably going to be Magnolia West. It's probably going to be a decent game. A good test there in the second round for Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan's got it was funny. Steve Gamble and I, Steve Gamble is the beat reporter for the DRC for Ryan beat, and he and I were talking about the path to a long run for either Geyer and Ryan. And you look at the Region 1 bracket for Division 1 and 5A, and it is just loaded from top to bottom with great teams. Highland Park, Longview, Magnolia West. Of course, Ryan's in there as well. Frisco Lone Star. And then you look at what Geyer would potentially have to go through, and there's not a lot of challenge. I mean, it's kind of a weaker region, and so it's going to be a tough road to hoe for Ryan if they are to make a long run this year.
Yep. Hey, Stephen, John Piper here. How is it hanging out with Newspaper Steve? He's the veteran up there at CH Collins. He probably has his own dressing room up there. Just kind of open court. Do you expect Newspaper Steve to be up there today, or does he have the night off?
No, he's actually going to be, I think, doing the Argyle game. So he'll be over there at Eagle Stadium in Argyle. But how is it hanging with him, man? My entire goal every time I am paired up with Steve is to just make him laugh uncontrollably and as much as possible. So I will throw out random crap out there just to see what will tickle his fancy and get him going.
Yeah, there's always like this subculture, these I guess we call it sub tweets that go back and forth with the Texas high school football media mafia. Professor Diggs gets into the mix a little bit, and there's always some gut punches that especially go across Twitter.
Yeah, shout out to former DRC member Reese Waddell, but he's involved in that. There, as you said, Professor Diggs from the old coach. It's a brethren, really, for sure, where we can just kind of throw crap at each other or just throw ideas and talk amongst ourselves. And I've often said that when we're always using the Texas high school football hashtag, we're all just screaming the same thing into the same void.
Seriously.
All right. So kind of since you brought up Argyle, I think I just kind of mentioned since Newspaper Steve's going to be at that game, I'm kind of interested in paying attention to that one just because it's probably going to be one-sided. That game itself against Wilmer Hutchins may not be super exciting, but they could match up with a 9-1 Kennedale, and they probably will in the second round. Kennedale played really well all year. Any thoughts there going kind of what we might see in that second round? I don't want to get super ahead, but I think that could be a really fun game.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong in that they will probably sleepwalk through this win against Wilmer Hutchins. Those Dallas teams that kind of have to come over to Argyle or to Denton area schools, have a tough matchup on their hands. So Kennedale would be a very interesting matchup. They're usually very run centric. And if you remember the Melissa game, I got a chance to see that one either on TV or in person, Melissa did a very good job of controlling the game on the ground. Now Argyle's made a switch at quarterback since that game. They went with I think a backup or their starting defensive back, Jet Copeland, to become the quarterback, and their offense has taken off since then. So it would be a very big contrast in styles. I honestly couldn't say. I was very unimpressed with what I saw out of Argyle in that Melissa game, and I haven't seen anything since because they got into the rest of their district schedule, and that includes Ranchview and Terrell, and they put it on Paris, who was a playoff team last year. But it will be a one of those important area around matchups that people would want to pay attention to for either team to make any kind of run, to be honest.
Since you brought up Melissa, I actually just have one quick question. We talked about it already a little bit at the beginning, but Melissa's matched up with Midlothian Heritage here to kind of start the playoffs. And do you think Argyle kind of lucked out maybe by not winning their district? And I know you don't want to say it's not good. I don't want to say it's a good thing they don't win the district, but Midlothian Heritage has a pretty decent team. They're 8-3. Quarterback has over 2,000 passing yards. So kind of interested in if you maybe know anything about that team.
Yeah, well, to kind of help you out a little bit there, actually, Melissa played North Dallas last night, so they would play Midlothian Heritage, or they would do that next week in the area round. So it would be a 9-win versus an 8-win team in the first round, but to see those two in the next round, I mean, you get those kind of matchups. You'll see it in 6A a lot, you'll see it in 5A and 4A. Oftentimes you don't get these kind of matchups, and it'll be a good litmus test for Melissa in the second round. I mean, they're expected to make a pretty big run after what they did to Argyle and how well they played all season. So, that will. I don't know much about Midlothian Heritage. I know they're a solid team. They're well coached, but I would give the advantage to Melissa just based off of the district that they've played in and how well they performed all year long.
Okay, thanks for that.
Hey, shout out to Margie Campbell, Stephen. You might not see it, but she's tuning in tonight. She's a longtime Argyle fan and actually a day one fan of the Dinko Gridiron Show. Been with us all 5 seasons. And Margie, for that, we are gonna, if you'll message us here at the show on Facebook, we are gonna actually give you a $25 gift certificate to Marty B's. How about that?
Wow.
So Margie, if you're listening, shoot us a message how we can get that to you, mailing address, and we'll send you, courtesy of Marty B's, a $25 gift card. Thank you so much.
Margie, you have to tell me how that place is. I've heard about it and I've never been there, so I'm interested in
good. Check it out.
Stephen, we'll take you down there, man. We'll take you down there.
Hey, I'm down for it. Also, to provide a little bit more context, I was just looking at Heritage's schedule. They actually lost to Melissa earlier in the year by 20. So maybe that will help provide some insight into how that game would unfold next week.
One last thing I actually got for you, Stephen. So I know you said you were talking to Steve a little bit earlier about, between which team, Geyer and Ryan, would maybe have a potentially longer run. Out of all the local teams in the area, so the Argyles, Geyers, Denton, Ryan, what team out of this area do you think is going to end up making the longest run?
Ooh. Oh man, I would probably say I think Geyer, just because they're the most balanced of the teams, at least in the 6A, 5A schools. When it comes to 4A and below, I would probably lean Argyle just based off of what they've been able to do and turn around, and then of course Todd Rogers. I think he's a good motivator and a good coach. So you don't win state championships without having those two skills available to yourself. So if we're going to go big schools, it's going to be Geyer just because of the lack of challenge, I think, in front of them, and then Argyle for the small schools.
A similar vein there. I'm kind of interested. Do you have a maybe Cinderella or dark horse that you think could maybe make a decent run, that people that finish maybe third or fourth place in their district that can make a decent run, win a few games?
I don't know why. This is my dumbest Cinderella school. I have no allegiance to them, but it's the Bullfrogs of Lake Worth. I always want them to do well. I just, they're one of one name of Bullfrogs, and so I kind of just latched onto it and hope that they always go far into it. But yeah, that's kind of who I would just, I always put the feather in my hat for is Lake Worth Bullfrogs.
I love it. That's awesome. All right. So I think kind of onto our next game here. This is probably the game that I'm most kind of intrigued by is Marcus versus Prosper. Both teams are kind of hot at the right time. It seems like explosive offenses. We've seen them both put up a lot of points. Prosper beat Allen last week. What are your thoughts on this game, and could this game really get out of hand scoring wise?
No, I don't think it'll get out of hand scoring wise. I don't think Prosper is really built for that. They had a great game plan for Allen last week, and it executed perfectly. And they almost pulled it off the year before at Allen. So they've been primed to knock the Eagles off. Marcus has been up and down, in my opinion, out of 6A this year. They won the district, but overall, I just think they have been inconsistent. And I think that plays in Prosper's favor, though. If they have the right matchups and they execute on them all night, they can pull off what would be the upset in that game. It will be close, but I don't think we're going to see an offensive explosion. And of course, I say that, and I could be all the way wrong too.
Yeah, I was going to say this Marcus team has definitely, if there's one word for their team, it definitely is inconsistent. I know when we saw them play Flower Mound, it was like, this Marcus team doesn't look very strong. They're letting Flower Mound kind of, have their way with them, whatever the case is. And then we saw them play Louisville, and it was totally different story. They totally shut down Louisville defensively, and, they just looked like a whole totally different team. I could see Prosper winning this one. I could see them definitely getting the upset as a 4-loss team. But I guess it just kind of depends on which side of Marcus we're going to see tonight.
I think that one of the things I kind of want to bring up here, I've watched Marcus play 3 or 4 times this year, and the thing that kind of drives me insane is they have a decent offense. The quarterback can get the ball to these receivers who are really good in open space. And for some reason, whenever they get a lead, they kind of stop throwing the ball. They let off the gas pedal, and they try to run east-west, and their running game doesn't really work. Instead of using the passing game kind of as an extension of the running game, they do some weird stuff with the running game. I feel like if they get an early lead, Prosper's good enough that they're going to let the Eagles right back in, and they've done that a few times. And Prosper's good enough that they'll bust the door open.
Yeah, Prosper's a gritty team. They're defensive centric, and so if Marcus lets off the gas, that will definitely open up a window for Prosper. But they're also not built to make big comebacks either. So they need to play it close and stick with Marcus. Stride for stride. Otherwise, the passing game is going to struggle a bit for Prosper, and it'll get them off schedule, as coaches like to say in this day and age. And if they get off schedule, I think that plays into Marcus's favor.
Right. Steven, sounds like some additional media is starting to roll in there to CH College. You got some coaches.
No, we got a coach up here from Flower Mound, and then we have the lovely press box ladies who make sure that this ship is running right up here.
They're the best.
The ATC kids aren't getting too boisterous.
All righty, so I guess on to the game of the game we'll all be covering. At least three of us will be.
Hey, before Stephen, we'll give you a chance to take a little break. We're going to throw it to one of our sponsors, locally owned and operated, Gillian Brothers Roofing. Let's take a short message from them. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt. I work for Gillian Brothers Roofing, and we know most property owners have no idea what condition their roof is in. But we believe it doesn't have to be that way, that you deserve to know the condition of your roof, and we want to help you. That's why we're offering our complimentary 14-point inspection to you and your neighbors. Our team will examine 14 different aspects of your roofing system. We'll educate you using pictures and drone video. And if necessary, we'll recommend how to best service your roofing system to ensure it keeps you, your family, and your home protected. And here's some more good news. This free inspection takes about 20 minutes and you don't even have to be home. So it can be done while you're at work, while you're running other errands, or while you enjoy some time with your family. So we want to encourage you to stop wondering what condition your roof is in and instead have one of our inspection specialists come take a look at your property today. Now, to take advantage of our complimentary 14-point roof inspection, simply visit our website, send us a message right here on Facebook, or you can click the link in the description. We look forward to helping you know the condition of your roof.
Shout out to our friends over there at Gillian Roofing Brothers. Please make sure to hit them up for all your roofing needs. And with that, we're going to throw it to our game of the night, Geyer versus Flower Mound. Flower Mound, they're going to have to test Geyer's defense tonight for sure to try to be able to pull out a win. Nick Evers, Flower Mound's starting quarterback, is going to have to play a great game. And then Flower Mound's just going to have to pretty much play clean on every facet of the game. Look for lots of pre-snap motion to try to create mismatch and get some guys open. Steven, do you have any thoughts on this one tonight?
Yeah, a lot of thoughts. Talking with Webb earlier this week, his main point of emphasis for his team was to start fast, and that's something that they haven't necessarily been able to do all year, and it definitely put them behind the 8 ball in Allen, the Allen game. Not in Allen, but against Allen, excuse me. Last year they had the same exact setup. They played their first 10 weeks of the season, then they had a bye week, and they started off very slow against a underwhelming Coppell team, and it was a 7-point game at the half. Now they turned it on in the second half and outscored them 28-7, and it was a laugher. But they didn't have a capable quarterback against Coppell last year, and Evers is a different animal, and the comp that I have for Evers is Caden Salter. And he, the last 2 years against Geyer had magnificent games. And so dual threat quarterbacks who can actually throw and who can easily escape the pocket and make a lot of plays with their feet give Geyer headaches, especially the last 2 years. So, it's going to be the biggest point of emphasis, I think, tonight for Geyer is starting off fast and containing Evers as much as possible because they have that one good receiver. I forgot his name, but he's got over 1,100 yards. And if he gets active, we've seen Geyer struggle to keep containment on some skilled receivers too.
Yeah, Steven, Nick Evers, man, we've been following the Jaguars all season long, and really good decision maker. He's a Florida commit. He can get it done on the ground, much like Caden Salter, and he's very accurate through the air. And you're talking about Walker Mulkey, their go-to guy, big play guy. He averages like 20 yards a catch. And you're right, Geyer's defensive backs, which they're loaded back there, are going to have to really key on him and really avoid the big play early in this game.
Yeah, I mean, going back to that Allen game, that's again what hurt them. Now, most of that was on the ground because they have a pretty electric star back there in the backfield, and he did it last year and did it again this year. But if Geyer, again, that off schedule, if they're having to play catch up early on, that doesn't bode well for them. I mean, they can, but you also don't want to have to wait until the middle second quarter or late early second half to then turn it on and try to play catch up the rest of the game. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of defensive strategy is used to contain Evers tonight.
Yeah, I'm really interested. I don't think I'm super necessarily interested in what Geyer's going to deploy defensively because I think there's a lot of, they're just so loaded back there, and they have a bunch of seniors there at the linebacking position that can kind of settle everyone down if things kind of get too out of hand early, just to kind of keep everyone settled down. I want to kind of see what Flower Mound does offensively, because in a lot of games where we see upsets at any level, it's usually the offense comes out for that underdog, comes out and gets the lead early. And I think that's what, like you said, Geyer wants to come out and score early. I think Flower Mound's going to be the same, do the same. They're going to come out and be aggressive, and kind of like I think Quincy mentioned earlier, talking about pre-snap motion. Peyton Porter, the starting running back for Flower Mound, being out, I'm very curious as to what Flower Mound's going to do to kind of help with that.
I think you're going to see a lot of. I think you mentioned earlier, pre-snap motion is going to be huge for Flower Mound to try to get Geyer off balance a bit. And I think you're really going to see a lot of running from Evers. While they are missing their starting running back, he is their leading rusher on the year, and he is the prototypical dual threat quarterback. His running skill equals his passing skill, and it's going to be hard to stop at any level. So a lot of pre-snap motion, a lot of quick outs, probably. Shovel passes. I'd imagine that Basil is going to throw the kitchen sink out at Geyer tonight to get them off kilter.
Yeah, no doubt, Stephen. Coach Basil likes to. It's all about a number of snaps per game. Cade Edline, one of the senior captains on the team, is going to have to fill that void from the running game. It's going to be hard to establish a rushing attack against this really loaded Geyer defense. I think Flower Mound will be happy if they can get 80 to 100 yards on the ground. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's the minimum that they should probably be attaining to. And again, I think they're gonna have to lean on Evers a lot to do some magic with his feet, because as good as he is as a passer, you guys have already mentioned how opportunistic and how solid Geyer's defense is. They have 20 takeaways this year in 10 games, excuse me. And actually it was 20 in 9 games, because there was the Allen game that didn't register a takeaway. So, if they're not careful with the ball, just like last night, Geyer will take the ball away and pounce on it and capitalize. So it's going to be necessary for them to mix it up offensively, especially with the run attack, and utilize Evers' ability to make plays both through the air and on the ground.
Right. I think the biggest X factor in this one is going to end up being Geyer's defense, because as like we've said, the perfect formula for an upset would be, Flower Mound coming out aggressively offensively, which we expect them to do. And then if Geyer just happens to, kind of be lackadaisical defensively and offensively, if they can't, kind of get things started until the second or third quarter, you're going to be looking at the perfect formula for an upset. So, yeah, I'm kind of interested to see if Flower Mound will be able to come out and kind of put Geyer on their heels.
Yeah, Quincy, across the board, really stepping up this season. Senior defensive end Rowan Briggs, 38 tackles on the season. They've got a stellar defensive back unit. Eli Bowen, 33 tackles. Ryan Yates, 25 tackles. Peyton Bowen, I think he's getting an offer from Notre Dame as well. Just a lot of Division I, Power 5 type players on that defensive side of the ball for Denton Geyer.
Yeah, and someone that has, who is it that had the Alabama offer? Marquand Pope has an offer from somewhere else. Everyone everywhere on that secondary is just elite to a level that's kind of insane. And, that's kind of why I brought up the pre-snap stuff, because you're going to have to get them off kilter somewhere. And that's also kind of what I wanted to ask about is, besides pre-snap motion, are we going to see possibly some RPOs and stuff? Because I know with a dual threat quarterback, that could be huge for them. And if Geyer plays a lot of zone or something, that might be something that they could use, or play action or something to just do anything to get them off balance.
Yeah, you're going to have to definitely take advantage of those RPO type plays, and really use Geyer's aggressiveness up front against them. And that would be those, quick outs, or shovel passes off of a jet sweep or something like that, to where you are negating the speed up front. And if you can get behind the front seven, I think you have a better shot. I'm not saying that you can just take advantage of the secondary, because as you guys have said, they are pretty top notch. Maybe not one of the best in the areas. So it's just really being solid on your execution, and taking the strength of your opponents in Geyer, and trying to turn it into a weakness when you can, in the best opportunity. Not every time, because they'll adjust and they'll make a play here and there, and then you'll be off schedule and all that stuff. So you have to be balanced and being aggressive, but also playing to what has got you to this point.
Hey, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us here live from C.H. Collins Athletic Complex.
Absolutely,
hey,
guys.
Last thing we want to get from all three of us, all three of you guys, is your final predictions and thoughts on this game. Start with you, Stephen. Your thoughts.
I think we'll see a close game early, kind of like last year. I don't trust a fast start happening for Geyer, but I think they will kind of pull away toward the end, and the good feels that Flower Mound has early will dissipate, and we're looking at maybe like a 45-27 type of game.
A lot of offensive production from Stephen Peters. What about you, Quincy? Your thoughts?
Honestly, I think for my final score, I'm going to go with 28-17 Geyer. I don't know. Obviously, we've seen kind of Geyer's offense stall out a little bit earlier in this year, and as the season goes on at some points when they face a tougher opponent. So I don't know if Flower Mound's defense is necessarily going to, be such a huge force, but I think Geyer wins a solid game. I think that they're going to be able to jump out to a lead early. I think Flower Mound's going to be able to battle back probably somewhere around the mid to late third quarter, but I think Geyer ends up running away with this one, Lee.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if that's what happens. There's two outcomes for me. It's either Geyer wins this 50-7, is kind of just an absolute thrashing, but I do think this is going to be a little bit tighter than people think. And if it is a tight at halftime, which is kind of what I imagine, kind of like Steven said, I think Flower Mound gives them a test throughout the game, and then Geyer kind of pulls away in the fourth quarter, and we're probably going to see something. Geyer around 35, Flower Mound about 21, and Geyer just kind of pulls away there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, my final thoughts. The only thing that can factor into this is if Geyer is looking ahead. We know Lee and I were down at the Flower Mound campus on Wednesday night, and we could tell those young men. They know. We talked about David and Goliath here. Even though Flower Mound's had a solid year, they've had a lot of close games that they've fallen a little short. But keep in mind, they beat a very good Marcus team, 17-14. So, not sure what to expect here, but, if Geyer overlooks them and get off to a slow start, perhaps Flower Mound takes an early lead. It could put Geyer back on the heels. I'm going to go with a tight game. Geyer winning this one 28-21.
I don't disagree that it could really be tight. I think those Flower Mound captains, talking to them, they don't feel they know they're underdogs, but I don't think that they're scared of Geyer in any way, shape, or form. Talking to the Geyer guys, they know they're confident, and that's scary when sometimes when the big dog is confident in themselves and they know how good they are, which they should. Geyer's got the seniors, so if there's anything no one's playing well, it's big that they have those seniors that can kind of fix things if necessary and kind of shape guys up at halftime. But Flower Mound has them too. So I think that's a big deal that, guys are playing to keep their careers alive here. So it's going to be I think it could get a little nasty. I don't want to say nasty, but it's going to be a hard fought game.
Well, hey, Stephen, for being on live here on the Dinko Gridiron Show, you're going to receive a $25 gift card from our friends at Marty B. So you mentioned earlier you've never been, so maybe we can coordinate and we can all go down there and hang out together sometime in this postseason. But we'll see you up at C.H. Collins here shortly. We'll let you get back to work. And Stephen Peters from the Denton Record Chronicle, beat writer for the Denton Gar Wildcats, thank you so much for your insight. As always, a true pro.
Thanks,
Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Guys, any final thoughts as we head into just a Friday Night Lights type atmosphere all across the great state of Texas? Man, what a time of year for all these young men, the staffs, the coaching staffs. It's just what they work for all season long and all off season.
Yeah, I love being in Texas high school football postseason. You know, I love it. It's just a great atmosphere. All the communities come together. You know, it really is kind of about the pageantry of Texas high school football. And then, you know, you get more deeper into the postseason and you start having games at the Star and Cowboy Stadium, you know, stuff like that. It's just a really special occasion. And I'm really happy to be here covering this one with y'all.
Yep. Super excited. Playoffs are always really, really fun. First round can be a little daunting when there's so many teams. And I think the first 2 rounds are going to be fun because we're going to kind of weed out, no offense to the guys who've won a lot of teams who've won a lot of games, but we're going to kind of weed out some of these teams we're going to weed out. That's the best way to put it, actually. Yeah. Is probably we're going to weed out some of these imposters and see who's really good. And I'm excited because one of the things I did notice, I think, on the UIL bracket is this year, since Geyer's in that little bit weaker region, is if they play well tonight, and I don't want to say hopefully, or I don't, we don't want to root for someone in particular, maybe, but I wouldn't hate to see a Geyer Cedar Hill matchup there, and I think it would be really late in the playoffs because it maybe in the semis or the round right before the semis. I couldn't remember, but it'd be really late in the playoffs rather than normally when we see them matching up in like the second round, which is fun. It's always cool when those teams play, but I would love to see a Geyer Cedar Hill matchup like we've seen in years past, but this time even more on the line because it's deeper in the playoffs.
Well, hey, for everybody that's been a part of this one, for Koency Hord, Lee Livingston, I'm John Piper. Follow us all postseason long on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We'll be signing off, and we'll see you at the stadium.
From Fox 4, make sure to tune in to the Denko Gridiron Show.